Okay, so let's go on to section 4 of my lecture on defining a magnet. Something basically everybody in the world thinks already been defined, but that would be incorrect in the extreme. Nobody has an idea what the hell's going on. I love it when people tell me, well, Tesla or Schauberger or so-and-so figured this out. It's like, go find me where they say that. And of course, nobody ever does. So, here we actually see, looking at one quote-unquote pole of a magnet. And importantly, this is not only visible underneath the supercell, it is absolutely testable with any Gauss meter that you actually have a high pressure zone in the center, intermediate pressure, and then we actually have a high pressure along the edge of the magnet. It doesn't matter what shape it is, cylinder, block, makes no difference. What a Gauss meter can't tell you, however, is the nature of that flux. I mean, it'd be like a meter not being able to tell you the difference between water coming out of your shower head or the water flowing down your drain. One is wholly different than the other. One is centrifugal and force, the water hitting your face, for example, analogously, and the water that's going down the drain. Of course, your drain doesn't have suction on it, but imagine if it did, that it is leaving, it is increasing to acceleration. It's centripetal and increasing inertia and acceleration, whereas the water coming out of your shower head would be centrifugal and divergent. Here in the case on the side of each and every magnet, this is not my premise, this isn't theory or speculation, this is a hardcore damn fact. We have the interlacing between the centrifugal divergent and the centripetal convergent, and the pressure mediation between the two. This is undeniable. And this also explains absolutely every oddball phenomena that people are unable to comprehend. Why, for example, like the world's or the universe's most diamagnetic elements, say bismuth, for example. It is repelled by the edge of a magnet, but it will actually accelerate. You can actually feel it attracting, or actually accelerating towards the center. Why, I thought diamagnetic means hates magnetism. It should be repelled from whether it's the edge or the center. Not the case at all. So let's talk about this and go over magnetism. What is a magnet, specifically in this fourth section? You should have listened to Eric Dollard when he said that you cannot understand electrical theory without a firm grasp of counterspace. It is absolutely impossible without it. These are his words, not mine. He is far more correct than even likely he knows on that point. There's a quote from Nikola Tesla. There is no energy in matter other than that which it receives from its environment, as meant the ether, of course, the medium or substrate. And of course it doesn't matter if we use the word zero-point energy or vacuum energy or the ether or dark matter. I don't care. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn about what stupid, petty, dumb human beings call something. We're referring to one thing and one thing only. So before beginning to define the magnet, there is only one field, the ether, and its most basic manifest field is the dielectric. All other fields are merely geometric modality expressions of the one field. Retroductive Platonic logic necessitates this to be so, since at the center of a magnet, for example, there is no magnetism. The center of a mass of gravity, there is no gravity. At the center of a dielectric field, however, there is the highest concentration of same. So let's get to it, and I'd like you to take a look at this lecture this image, excuse me, long and hard, and let's explain it here in just a second. So let's get to it. First, let's define a magnet and state the obvious, that before becoming a magnet and after becoming a magnet, there is zero quantitative change, be it ferrite, samarium, cobalt, neodymium iron boron, or otherwise. Magnetodielectric elasticity, so to say, or the atomic and molecular nature of the object, defines its ability to become a magnet. As has been demonstrated, we can polarize strawberries and living frogs in a strong enough magnetic field, really high magnetic field, but only temporarily so. Most neodymium magnets, for example, are magnetized with 2400 volts and 12 amps DC. For thousands of years now, we've been certain that magnetism was the reason why these magnets accelerate towards one another. But this is not true at all and an absolute logical impossibility. In the manifestation of the conjugate magnetodielectric field geometry, magnets accelerate towards a mutual null point or nexus in counterspace, not towards each other. This is clearly also seen underneath the ferrocell. On the right, you'll have a look at this diagram. in other places. This is from Charles Proteus Steinmetz's field diagram of the AC circuit, the electrical circuit. And here we're looking at the circular lines. This is one where he gets it right. I hope you notice this pattern. We'll talk about it here shortly as well. This would be also the same diagram, the field diagram between the dielectric manifest in blue and the magnetic in these circular orange circles. This is the same field you would see in AC power lines going down your street. Now, if I were to actually take the same field diagram and put a black box around it, okay, we have the exact same conjugate magnetodielectric hyperboloid and torus. By the way, the inverse of a torus is a hyperboloid. The inverse geometry of a hyperboloid, meaning an hourglass shape, is a torus. These two superimposed upon each other, of course, form a sphere. The torus, the donut shape, and the hyperboloid, the hourglass shape. These are negative images of each other. It is also the case that the maximum, and this has been proven by supercomputer model, where you turn a sphere inside out to its maximum, the absolute inverse of a sphere is a hyperboloid. Everything that defines force and motion, space, force vectors, is magnetism. You remember when your idiot teacher said, every atom in the universe is 99.999999999% empty space. Like if we were to take all the empty space in every atom away, like the entire Earth would fit into something about the size of a large marble. Well, it's not empty space at all. It's just the magnetodielectricity, or the air in the balloon, if you will, of every atom, measured in picometers, the interatomic molecular radii of any and every atom in the universe. That is magnetodielectricity. That is the air, if you will, or the so-called space that makes up the the atomic diameter in picometers, measured in picometers of each and every atom. But here we have the exact same diagram between these two. The field geometry is 100% identical. You should actually study on this. If you were to actually study on this, you'd make an interesting visual connection to what the hell's going on. By the way, if aliens, and I'm only saying this, not talking about aliens at all, if aliens were to land to prove that us stupid human beings are even slightly evolved, we wouldn't have to show them anything, or like, all we'd have to do is show them this diagram. I say, oh, these human beings, they understand the nature of the universe. This is the conjugate magnetodielectric geometry of the entire universe. Here we have the torus, and the inverse image, we actually have the hyperboloid. Anyway, I could actually discuss that for hours. That is a long discussion to talk about that one. Here we have actually a frog levitating in a ultra high, I think it's like a 6 Tesla Gauss field, a living frog. So people don't realize that all is a field itself. Just as magnets do not accelerate towards one another, neither is there anything present in the void of a ring magnet. Yet when viewing same underneath a supercell, it has the exact same magnetodielectric image as any pole of any magnet. Take a look and discuss this one here shortly. It might be simple to think of a magnet which has been charged with 2400 volts and 12 amps DC as a permanent field photograph of the charge which has passed through it. The magnetodielectric geometry that defines a magnet is point source, not merely domain alignment. Descriptions are not explanations. To say that a magnet is an object which has aligned domains is a superficial farce which neither explains what a magnet is nor how a magnet works. Collectively, humans think, due to 5,000 years of experiential observation, that a magnet is an object which emits a magnetic field, and that magnetism causes other ferromagnetic objects like nails and iron filings to accelerate towards it. All of this nonsense is due to the inherent defects of human sensory input, and also human ignorance, of course. This is also due to the illogical and faulty thinking methodology of intellectually unevolved humans. Aligned magnetic domains are far less a full description and no explanation at all. Rather, a magnet is defined by having point source field incommensurability. I'll soon explain that in the next section, section 5. By the way, I just use this as a perfect analogy. We have an hourglass, a sand hourglass. We obviously can't take this analogy too far. We have sand that goes from one side to the other. We turn it over. But if I actually overthrow a white outline over this, we'd actually have the same sort of premise on several levels of the analogy of a magnet. We have centrifugal divergence, we have centripetal convergence, and right here at the center, We have no space, no time, no polarity, the non-Cartesian nexus, or it was no topos nexus, and of course that would be talking about not a point, we're not talking about a zero nexus between all Cartesian values, we're talking about counter space itself. Here we have absolute inertia, absolute power, no space, no time, no polarity, but it's not located there. It has no topos or place. You can't obviously slice a magnet and end up with a north pole here and a south pole there. But this is kind of a, a very accurate, not too deeply so, but on several levels a really good analogy of the nature of the magnetodielectric geometry that makes up. And of course we'd have the torus around this, the expanding and contracting circles which actually define magnetism, which also actually defines the loss of inertia, which manifests as expanding and contracting circles, which are force vectors, which create space, which denote phase and polarity, and also time, well actually the creation of time. And time is not a thing at all. Time does not exist. Time is only a measure of magnitudes. Time has no place in Mother Nature whatsoever. It would take actually hours to explain this, but time in all ancient metaphysics has always been the number 4. And 4 is not found within the Fibonacci sequence. Both in the ancient Greek, Egyptian, and Indian, 4 has always been the number for time. And in the Fibonacci sequence between 1 and 5, 4 is non-existent, because the Fibonacci between 1 and 5 is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. But that would take a really long time to explain, and I don't have that for this section. So this field is spatially coherent and emanating from the absolute inverse of the spatial mass, so deemed now a magnet. This sink, of course, is counter space, the anti-locus of force and mass, which define magnetism denotatively, of which magnetism is the dielectric field expressed in and by the loss of inertia or potential. Gravity, likewise, cannot be an autonomous field modality. In simple, it is simply non-point source or spatially incoherent dielectric acceleration. This is the same idiocy intellectually unevolved humans call magnetic attraction, which is not magnetism at all. It's nothing more than point source dielectric acceleration, or essentially point source so-called gravity. Let's actually decrease this size and go on to the next. This is a diagram I created about 6 years ago or so. As I mean that gravity and so-called magnetic attraction are exactly one and the same thing, with different attributes, but of course have the same properties, since they are the very same thing. The magnetodielectric torus and hyperboloid of the conjugate geometry that defines everything in the cosmos. Likewise, we can say of these field modalities or geometries that they are the archetypes of space and counter space. If you want to say yin and yang, I don't really care, but I mean, that is the basis for everything in the universe, the magnetodielectric. Electricity is phi times psi equals q in Planck of electrification, a hybrid of dielectricity and magnetism. Gravity is nothing itself. There is no autonomous field modality known as gravity. This is just a misapprehension of human beings thinking that it is something separate. Even the idiots of general relativity and quantum mechanics for ages now, and I will agree with them on this, have said themselves, there must be some sort of grand unified theory that's so simple that we're going to eventually realize it sometime in the far future and go, my God, we should have seen this ages ago. This is so simple. Well, they haven't found it yet, but a few people have. Well, maybe not a few, maybe just 1 or 2. So, the intermolecular dimensions as said by Steinmetz, or counter space, or 0 point, or simply said the ether makes no difference. These are just conceptual words to refer to one thing. Pure, unmanifest, non-Cartesian inertia or energy, i.e. the ether at rest, i.e. the one and only medium. Charge and discharge, space and counter space. Force and motion, inertia and acceleration. There are no straight lines in nature's cosmos, nor are there actions without sub-actions and reactions. The line of Mother Nature is not a human line, and it is perfectly mutually divergent, curvilinear, and necessitatively so, three-dimensionally self-mediating. Magnetism is the dielectric field, as expressed in the loss of inertia, with the original definition of inertia as meaning pure potential. I mean the original definition of inertia, not as we currently connote it. Intellectually blind humans have subdivided up the one field into different things merely due to the fact that they have different motions, either linear, as in the case of dielectric, or circular, as in the case of magnetic, or coaxial, as in the case of electromagnetism, light and electricity. All inertia and acceleration are moves towards counter space. Gravity does not exist as an autonomous field modality. It is merely incoherent dielectric acceleration. To foolishly think that these field modalities are different things from one another is to think that ice is one thing, water is something else, and steam yet another thing. Well, this is what a pathetic child does. Human beings should be more intelligent than that, being able to understand that these things are one and the same thing. They're just different modality expressions. People are confused as to why a more powerful magnet has a smaller spatial footprint or influence. This is due to the fact that a magnet is far, far less a magnet, as implied a magnetic object, than it is a dielectric double vortex and conjugate magnetodielectric field system with both field incommensurability but also field coherency, as the attributional nature dictates of a point source system. Here we're actually looking, this image is courtesy of Michael Snyder, of two poles on a cube magnet. Here you can actually see they actually look like bowl formations. They actually look like a bowl is sinking towards counter space. How brilliant. Also, I can actually tell of these images that the south pole is here on the left, because there always exists, due to geomagnetic precession, a phase variance of 1 to phi. This bowl is more deeply defined, and we actually have a bright line here. We can call that event horizon because we want to know what an event horizon is, so we can say this is the centrifugal point where the light actually disappears in the center of the magnet. This is the dielectric portal of increasing inertia and acceleration. You know why you see no light in the center of a magnet, right? But you see plenty of light around the edge. Do you understand that? Do you? Everywhere you see light is magnetism. Everywhere you don't see light is, of course, the dielectric. Why do you think the center of every magnet underneath the supercell or ferrocell is black? That is the dielectric portal. That is the interplay between the conjugate magnetodielectric, the centrifugal divergent, force and motion, and centripetal convergence, increasing inertia and acceleration. This is irrefutable. This is undeniable. Nature cannot exist any other way. There is a very unique word, lost for thousands of years. And by the way, I have a neat book. It's 354 pages long, trying to define the ancient Greek word ananke. It never gets to it. 354 pages to define one word. There's an ancient Greek word for this premise, this conjugate magnetodielectric and other things in the universe, all the same thing, irreducibly so. It's translated as necessity, this term ananke, but it doesn't mean necessity. It literally, and there's no way to define it. There's a lot of ancient Greek words which you cannot translate. The closest thing you can come to is, it cannot exist any other way. It can't be any other way. It's like, why is something like this rather than like this? Why is there suffering in the universe? Why do good people die young? You know, all these stupid questions we have. The answer is ananke, which is not a correct translation, but it's about as close as you can come, which would be, it cannot exist any other way. Here we're actually looking at a ring magnet underneath the supercells, my image. You can actually see the torus or donut in the center here where there's absolutely nothing present at all. The magnet is, of course, a ring. Of course, we'll go to explaining that later. See, people are confused, and I get phone calls from people. I bought more expensive magnets off this guy for your recommendation, but the field is smaller. Let's actually explain that here shortly. A more powerful magnet has a far more powerful counterspatial dielectric hyperboloidal geometry, which sits over either pole. Typically, an N35 Gauss magnet has a larger spatial, i.e. magnetic field. As you increase the power of the magnet to N40 and 50, it becomes much, much smaller, and an ultra-high power permanent magnet rated at like N55 and higher have a much smaller spatially palpable magnetic field or footprint. This is an important image. Let's go back to it here in just a second. And these are some other images which don't need to go to explain that, broken ring magnets. Here's a, let me go on to the next image. Here we go. This would be like a weaker magnet here with a larger, the magnetic would be defined in the yellow and the dielectric defined in white. As we actually increase the power of the magnetic field becomes spatially smaller. Well, a more powerful magnet should have a larger field. Just the opposite, because a magnet is not defined by magnetism. What? That doesn't make any damn sense, you fat, bald, tattooed asshole. No, it makes 100% hyperlogical sense if you know what the hell a magnet is and if you know what the hell magnetism is. More powerful magnet has a smaller spatial field because when you increase the power, what you're doing is increasing the dielectric. Okay? It would be, and of course your shower does not work this way, but as a visual analogy for you, imagine that if you were to greatly increase the power to your shower, rather than more water, and of course your shower, like I said, doesn't work this way. Instead of the water coming out at greater force in your face, what would happen is that there would be greater suction at the drain, and I know there's no suction on your drain in the shower, but you'd turn the power up because you wanted more water pressure, but what happened is that the drain at the bottom of your shower would start sucking like crazy, right? And instead of the water coming more into your face with higher power, it would actually start to flow back towards the drain. So by increasing the power, the shower head, of course, would be analogous to the magnetic, and the drain at the bottom would be analogous to the dielectric. See, this confuses people. I increased the power, but the water pressure to my face became less. Yeah, as you notice what happened down there, you're like, yeah, the water started coming backwards towards the drain. And of course, like I said, your shower doesn't work that way, but that's about as perfect analogy as I can think of. And let's go back to another image here in a second. This is a neat little thing from Ripley's Believe It or Not. This is how human beings are stupefied by magnetism. Of course, there's this faucet. It's made out of styrofoam. It hangs up in the air. And it's like, where the hell is the water coming from? Water keeps pouring out of it and just pouring out of it, and there's nothing feeding the faucet. Well, this would be the magnetism everybody's amused by. But what they can see is a hollow tube up in the middle that's being fed by a pump at the bottom. Of course, the tube is feeding up water to the top, releasing it, and it's falling down, and the whole thing repeats itself. It's kind of what's going on in magnetism. Let's get on to a really, really important diagram before finishing this section out. Something you really need to consider. I'll show you a really, really powerful magnet underneath the supercell. We have the same thing in Mother Nature here. We have convergence at the surface, and we have divergence aloft, convergence at the aloft and divergence. We have cyclonic and anticyclonic. Gee, this kind of looks like exactly what you see underneath the supercell regarding the magnetodielectric conjugate geometry between the interplay of centrifugal divergence and centripetal convergence. This dual conjugate vortex of pressure and antipressure mediating itself out. See, the same thing in weather patterns. Exact same thing. High pressure to low pressure. Gee, clockwise and counterclockwise vortices. Isn't that interesting? Here's one. We have cyclonic and anticyclonic flow, clockwise, counterclockwise vortices, convergence aloft, surface divergence. Geez, a magnet works exactly like this. Everything in Mother Nature is mimicked from macro to micro. There is no distinction. This would take a long time to explain this, but basically what this says, my discovery of 2011 or so, is that the proportionality between centrifugal divergence and centripetal convergence always follows golden ratio proportionality. So let's go back to this. What you're looking at here is a really, really powerful magnet. It is an N55 Gauss, 1 inch by 3/4 inch thick. You notice how huge this dielectric black portal is right here? Not only that, there's this black ring around the edge of the magnet. Instead of it being super bright as it would be on any other magnet, it's black. What is actually happening here, and by the way, of course a black hole is neither black nor is it a hole, but this is the best and most perfect black hole analogy you'll ever come across, at least one that I could think of, is that by this really, really powerful magnet, the actual field is much, much tighter to the surface of the magnet. Literally, because everywhere I told you there's light is where magnetism is. The magnetism is literally, instead of diverging, of course it is still diverging out in the expanding and contracting circles, but it is the power of this magnet is so high at N55 Gauss, the magnetism is literally flowing backwards to the center, increasing the hole. Remember that movie Black Hole? There's all these black hole movies. This is a really, really good analogy of that. And this is what people don't understand because we have no analog of this in our human world. Is imagine that something is so large, so massive, but it has no magnitude. Well, that makes no damn sense, you tattooed asshole. No, it makes 100% hyper logical sense. Because you don't know what magnetism is, neither does anybody else. The only thing that keeps something within the visible universe is magnetism. When a star starts to create enormous amounts of iron, and then the field incommensurability is set up, i.e. becomes coherent, what happens is the dielectric literally overthrows magnetism's ability to keep that object within the Cartesian visible universe. This, of course, is not an analog of that. This is just a powerful magnet. But you can see the expanding dielectric portal here. The magnetism is literally flowing back in. Instead of a bright ring around the edge, we have a black ring around the edge. Perform this experiment yourself. You'll see the same thing. You can order N55 Gauss neodymiums online. This portal is about 3 times as large as it should be on any other magnet. This is pressure mediation. By increasing the power of this magnet, what's happening is the dielectric is overthrowing the magnetic. This is not my idea. This is not my theory. This is Mother Nature in action. It can't even exist any other way. If you understand what magnetism is relationship to the dielectric, you understand this is all hyperlogical. This is a really good analogy of a black hole, however. It's not a black hole. But I've had people call me and say, how about these really powerful magnets off your recommendation? You tattooed schmuck, but the field is really small. I got to get them even closer. They think that a more powerful magnet has a bigger magnetic field. Listen closely. It's exactly the opposite. The more you increase it, the smaller the magnetic field gets, because the power is in the dielectric. You see this? The power is there, not in the magnetic. When you have a more powerful magnet, that is what you actually have. This is not my opinion. It's a fact. Nobody gets this because nobody understands what the goddamn hell magnetism is. Anyway, so much smaller and ultra high powerful permanent magnet rated at like N55 have a much smaller spatial palpable magnetic field or footprint. Excuse me, I was looking at the time since I have a live stream tonight. I'm just about done with section 4 here. All power in a magnet is translational upon and to the dielectric, not the magnetism. Humans have always confused power with the loss of power. For example, true power would be a small softball-sized lump of plutonium. But human beings ignorantly think the explosion is the power. But in fact, that's the impotency of power. A magnet's magnetism is impotence of power, as manifest in divergence, centrifugal magnitude, and the creation of space. The term force and magnetism and saying create space are all three exactly the same thing from the perspective of nature. True power of a magnet is always in its dielectric hyperboloidal geometry, which terminates in counterspace and is visible underneath the supercell. In our shower and drain analogy, as I've already said, a more powerful magnet would be a shower which has a far greater cyclonic suction at the drain than output at the shower head, and I know a shower does not work that way. As the power of the magnet is increased, the magnetic flow, instead of going out like a shower head, goes straight back towards the drain. This is also visible, as you can see right here. All of this is the same whether samarium, cobalt, neodymium iron, boron, or ferrite, or otherwise. Field incommensurability is an extremely important point, and I will discuss that here in the next section, section 5. I hope you like these videos. This is the end of section 4. If you like these videos, you could always drop a small donation because I believe in giving information out for free. And I wish I didn't have to worry about paying bills and making ends meet and property taxes and yada, 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 yada. But anything helps. But even if you learn something, then that is good enough. I want people to be happy. I love learning stuff. And thank you so much for watching. This is the end of section 4. We have more sections to go. And do svidaniya, увидимся, aloha, пока, and I will catch you in the next section. Peace out, Girl Scout.